Hello guys, welcome back to another cult movie review. Today I will be taking a look at the 1972 Wes Craven horror film, The Last House on the Left. So this film, which was also written by Wes Craven, follows two girls, Mary and Phyllis, who get abducted and later killed by a gang of career criminals. So upon its release, Last House received a lot of controversy surrounding its harsh, excessive violence. And it's fair to say that this film was one of the very first to portray realistic violence on screen without glamorizing it in any way. The raw presentation of the film almost gives it a documentary type vibe to it, which adds to the overall experience. And for me, a film definitely ahead of its time. Now, the movie was banned for many years here in the United Kingdom by the BBFC classification board. Basically, all the films that get released in this country get classified by them. So this movie was banned, meaning it was actually illegal to own a copy of this film in any capacity before the ban was lifted. I don't want to get off topic here and, start talking about censorship, but yeah, there's something that just seems off about that this board of people, completely unelected, get to dictate, hey, you should see this, hey, you should see that, or you shouldn't see this and you shouldn't see that. So the now defunct company Anchor Bay went on to release the film on DVD for the first time in 2003. And once the DVD was released, Last House garnered a whole new audience in Europe. You have to think that this film, was banned for many years, and a large majority of people, especially in Europe, had never seen the film before. So for the horror fan community in Britain, this release of Last House on the Left was a big deal. And it was a cool time to be a film fan. DVDs were hugely popular at the time, and older films were getting this DVD upgrade treatment. And props to companies like Anchor Bay for, releasing those titles and giving the film a whole new lease of life. So the movie stars the late David Hess in the lead role as Krug Stillo, an absolute scumbag and convicted criminal. We see the character carry out a range of sadistic acts throughout the film. Krug has zero remorse. And there's a sense of genuine darkness in the actor's eyes. It's a very believable performance from Hess, who was a major highlight in this film. Early on, we see Krug, his junkie son Junior, and his two degenerate friends Sadie and Fred stumble across these two young girls looking to buy drugs. Initially, Krug and his gang play it cool with the girls, Mary and Phyllis, giving them a false sense of security. The girls were completely unaware of who they'd just run into. Krug's gang were wanted by police and hiding out in this shoddy motel when Mary and Phyllis showed up. Before any drugs could be sold, the girls are quickly beaten and taken advantage of. These scumbags are not messing around, and they pounce on their prey, a real bunch of sick individuals. And I've got to say, all the members of the gang had great natural chemistry on screen together. The interaction between all four members felt genuine, it didn't feel forced, and you got the impression that these guys had been on the run for a long time, had been together for a long time. Overall, great performances from the actors. The two victims, Mary and Phyllis, played by actresses Sandra Peabody and Lucy Grantham respectively, were just two innocent high school kids. They were no threat to anyone, especially the gang. I've got to say, the actresses brought a real sense of vulnerability to the screen. Their performances seemed genuine and felt real. And from all of that, when you see the scene play out and they're, being assaulted, you feel for these characters. They're in this helpless situation, and it is hard to watch. The next day, the gang put the unconscious girls in the boot of their car and head out. They drive out of the city to avoid the police. Given the gang were on the run, initially you think the girls might be used as hostages, but once we see Krug and the gang driving through this vast woodland area, you come to realize that these guys have other plans in mind. We see the girls get taken into the woods and forced to perform sexual acts on each other. And the group just stood there watching, taking pleasure in Mary and Phyllis's anguish. At one point, the girls get asked to undress and Mary starts to break down. It's a messed up scene, and I'm sure it must have been very hard for all the actors involved to perform and act that out in real life. The girls are awkward and hesitant, which makes the scene feel way more real. Great direction from Wes Craven. So the humiliation and torture continues in the woods. Phyllis at one point makes a run for it, only to be caught and dismembered. At this point in the film, you come to the realization that there is absolutely no hope for these girls, and it's just a matter of time before, Mary's next on the chopping block. You hope that a passerby might come along, or a jogger, or someone, just a witness to see something and call for help, but it never does come. And once Mary sees the chopped off hand of Phyllis fall into the ground, you see it in the character's eyes, like she knows it, like, okay, I'm dead, it's done for, Phyllis tried to escape, she failed, and now I'm next. What follows is Krug sexually molesting Mary before she's shot and killed. Now, I hate to see these types of scenes in films, but credit to Wes Craven, who decided to do something a little bit different and use a low-angle close-up for this scene. The camera focuses on Krug and Mary, and you really see the fear in her eyes. And this scene is all in one take and no cutaways. It's very impactful and great filmmaking by Wes Craven. At this point in his career, he'd done very little, so very inexperienced, and on location in the woods with these actors, testing out different things, different ways. This movie was extremely low budget, so the filmmakers had all these, issues and obstacles to try and get through, but besides all of that, they were able to deliver some very thought-provoking and powerful cinema. The whole abduction and torture does take up quite a large chunk of the film. The final part sees the gang take refuge in a house nearby, the last house on the left. Their car had broken down and needed somewhere to stay for the night. The homeowners, John and Estelle, show kindness and let their group stay. Obviously, this is the 1970s, so a group of suspicious-looking folk showing up to a house in the middle of the woods at night time, looking to stay. In 2023, I don't think the homeowners would probably let them stay, but It was the 70s. Krug and the gang make themselves at home, and they quickly discover photos of Mary. They all come to the realization that they're actually in her home. The elderly couple downstairs are Mary's parents. Now in reality, if this had actually happened, you'd likely freak out. What are the chances of killing someone and then going to this random house and end up bumping into the victim's parents? I mean, for me, I'd be freaking out. I'd be like, what the hell, we gotta get out of here. This is too crazy, let's go. But anyways, for Krug and his crew, they simply took it as a mild surprise, showing just how little remorse they all have. Separately to all of this, the mother, Estelle, becomes suspicious when she discovers some of their bloody clothing and overhears them discussing murder. This all culminates in the parents discovering Mary's body in the lake near the house. Of course, there was no way of saving Mary, she was gone, but John and Estelle, distraught and reeling from their loss, decide to take revenge upon the group. The final few minutes of the film are very gory, very bloody, with the dad taking his chainsaw and slowly stalking Krug around the living room before ultimately sawing him to death. Estelle, the mother, seduces Fred and in the process bites off his penis. Pains me just to say that. Ouch. Of course, you can never condone murder, but you are kind of happy to see Krug and his gang get their comeuppance. Those are some horrible ways to die, and you reap what you sow. Horrible deaths for truly horrible people. I've got to say, this is a very powerful film, all things considered. The more I'm thinking about it and just talking to you guys, I've got to give, huge props to Wes Craven and producer Sean S. Cunningham for the brilliant casting decisions that they made. All of the main cast of characters really nailed their performances. It came off as very real, very genuine, as I said, authentic. You really got the impression that these girls were killed, and then you really got the impression that these parents took their revenge. Everyone involved with Last House had limited experience in filmmaking. When it came to the actors, they'd hardly started anything. When it comes to the filmmakers, the script writers, everyone involved, just a bunch of ambitious, young, creative people wanting to get involved with this really kind of crazy project. And even with the limitations, they knew they had to cast the right actors in the correct roles in order to pull this film off. Poor casting for the gang in particular could have really hurt this film. So top marks to the filmmakers for their strategic casting decisions and the actors themselves for pulling off authentic performances. And so, dislikes for Last House on the left. The main dislike I will have to say, and this is probably a main dislike for many people that have seen this film, would be the police duo played by actors Marshall Anker and Martin Cove. The two police officers act as comic relief for the film. They're investigating the disappearance of Mary, and they're always, 2 steps behind the gang. Now, from my understanding, the reason the film gave so much screen time to the cops was basically to act as a palate cleanser for the audience. And so we see the cops in this mini subplot where their car breaks down, resulting in them trying to hitch a ride. So it's like one extreme to the other, torture and, sexual violence. Then suddenly we see these cops trying to hitch a ride and it's all, fun and games. It was very jarring, but I believe that was kind of what Wes Craven was going for. And so I understand the reasoning for their involvement. Some of the scenes with the cops are okay. but most of the time the scenes fall flat. And it generally seemed like kind of like they were padding out the film, to make the film longer. I also think if it's kind of a semi kind of contradiction to what I said about how good the casting was, if the filmmakers had cast better actors, I think the comedy stuff might have been played better. The actors did the best job they could, and I just think with more experienced actors, likely that would have improved the film overall. Ideally, if you could go back and recut this film, just, take out all the kind of cop stuff in between, and yeah, it makes for a much better film. Another dislike would have to be David Hess's music score that he provided for the film. He's a good actor with tremendous screen presence. I like some of the music that's in the film, especially the kind of more slower songs from David Hess that he produced. But other times I found some of the music kind of jarring when it was mixed in with these gritty visuals. For example, there's a driving scene, the gang drive out the city and they're obviously heading through to this woodland area. You have this upbeat song, like dun 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 dun. It's like, what is this? Like, I'm like, like the song could have worked if it was like a scene at a bar and it's on a jukebox or something, but the car travelling down, Krug's got his cigar and stuff, and it's just like, it's kind of, for me it's too upbeat. But I will say this, it is very unique, and whenever I hear that song, immediately I think Last House on the Left. I get it, the budgetary constraints. David Hess was a musician. He was willing to put forward his music, and some of his music definitely worked. There's just a few songs like that one where I think it was kind of overly cheerful, and it did make me wonder if a more serious tone would have been better suited. Anyways, this is a minor issue, and in fairness, the kooky score for Last House does result in the film attaining a very unique vibe, as I mentioned, which would be kind of impossible to replicate now. One last gripe I have to mention would be the scene where Mary's body is discovered by her parents and the body's pulled out from the lake. If you look closely, Mary can be seen moving and twitching slightly. Now, if we go back to Mary's death scene, it's clear she entered the lake and Krug shot her in the back of the head. As tragic as it was, she was dead and gone. The way I saw it, the parents should have pulled Mary's body from the lake, her lifeless body, and she remains completely lifeless. It's a small thing, so yeah, but it just made me think, like, couldn't have they gone with a different take? Alright, well, ratings for Last House on the Left. I'm going to give it a solid 6 out of 10. Given the budgetary constraints that Wes Craven encountered, no doubt Craven and his team around him worked extremely hard to make the most of what they had. The film is now over 50 years old and still a very interesting piece of cinema. A project that was pioneering for its time with its brutal and intense sexual violence that in turn spawned a whole new host of violent exploitation copycat films later that decade. Undoubtedly, it's a cult classic, and anyone interested in this film, anyone interested in getting into cult movies, cult fandom, definitely need to check this one out. For those who've already seen it, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's always good to read you guys' thoughts. Kind of strange to recommend a film so kind of harsh and violent, but as I said, it really is a interesting film definitely certain elements of the film still hold up over 50 years later. But that's today's video, guys. Hope everyone has enjoyed it. I'll be back real soon with more reviews. Please like and subscribe, and of course, take care, everyone. All the best.